The thing about being the first human xenobiologist to make contact with an advanced alien federation is that nobody tells you how much of your job will involve explaining why you aren't dead yet. My name is Dr. Miles Hoffman, and I've spent the last 15 years studying theoretical alien biology. Theoretical, because until 6 weeks ago we hadn't actually met any aliens. Now I'm aboard the Audacious Hope, Earth's first interstellar diplomatic vessel, and I'm beginning to think my degree might be worth something after all. Excuse me, Dr. Hoffman, but your cardiovascular system appears to be malfunctioning, said Dr. Lorne, my Vrexian counterpart, waving one of his 4 upper limbs in concern. His skin was a pale lavender, and his 6 eyes blinked in what I'd come to recognize as medical panic. No, that's just my normal heart rate, I replied, trying not to stare at the bizarre articulation of his joints. Humans average between 60 to 100 beats per minute. 100? All 6 eyes widened simultaneously. That's catastrophic. Our medical databases suggest anything above 30 indicates imminent system failure. I sighed. This had been our life for the past month since first contact with the Vrexian Alliance, a federation of 12 alien species who'd been exploring the galaxy while humanity was still figuring out how to make fire consistently. They'd found us just as we were developing our first faster-than-light drive, which apparently made us the equivalent of toddlers with chainsaws in the galactic community. Human biology is different, I explained for what felt like the 1,000th time. We're fine with higher heart rates. Our blood pressure is also different from your species. Diplomatic Officer Nex, a reptilian Carvax with brilliant orange scales, leaned closer to the medical scanner. And you maintain this condition constantly? Without medication? Well, when we sleep, it slows down a bit. Sleep? Asked Visra, a small, fuzzy creature who served as Dr. Lorne's research assistant. What is this sleep? I rubbed my temples. It's a regular period of unconsciousness where our brains process information and our bodies repair themselves. We do it daily for about 8 hours. The silence in the medical bay was deafening. All 12 alien representatives stared at me. You regularly lose consciousness as part of your normal biological cycle? Officer Nex finally asked, her voice pitched higher than I'd ever heard it. Yeah, don't you guys sleep? Unconsciousness is typically associated with severe injury or imminent death, Dr. Lorne said carefully. Are you saying humans voluntarily enter a death-like state every day? It's not death-like, I protested. It's just sleep. We lie down, close our eyes, and you simulate death on a daily basis? Officer Nex's translator nearly screeched. And your species survives this? Not only survives it, I said, with a small smirk forming, we get cranky if we don't get enough. Dr. Lorne's assistant Visra began frantically taking notes on a translucent tablet. Fascinating and terrifying. These humans intentionally deactivate, then reactivate, like machines. I was about to explain REM sleep when Dr. Lorne's scanner started beeping frantically. Your digestive analysis is complete, he said, staring at the results with what I could only interpret as horror. According to this, you regularly consume ethanol? Oh, you mean alcohol? Yeah, in moderation. It's a social thing. This compound is a neurotoxin, Visra whispered, and a sterilization agent. Well, yeah, I admitted. In high quantities it can be problematic, but... And this capsaicin? Dr. Lorne continued, the medical equivalent of watching a train wreck in slow motion. It's a defense chemical from your planet's flora that causes pain receptors to fire. We call those chili peppers, I said with a grin. They make food taste better. You consume pain for pleasure? Officer Nex took a step back. When you put it that way, it sounds weird, I conceded. What about this theobromine and caffeine? Dr. Lorne pointed at the scanner. Coffee and chocolate. Breakfast of champions. Both are toxic alkaloids that cause neural stimulation. I shrugged. They help us wake up after our daily death simulation. In that moment, watching the collective shock of 12 alien species simultaneously realizing just how weird human biology is. I knew my job had just become a lot more interesting. And as Earth's first xenobiological diplomat, I couldn't help but think that maybe our quirky biochemistry might be our greatest first contact asset. So I said, clapping my hands together and enjoying the way the Vrexian delegation flinched at the sudden noise. Who wants to hear about our skeleton being inside our bodies? 2 weeks after our initial medical examinations, I found myself in what can only be described as the most uncomfortable conference room in the galaxy. The Vrexian Alliance had organized an emergency medical symposium to discuss the human biological anomaly. A diplomatic way of saying what the hell is wrong with these people. I sat at a circular table designed for at least 6 different body types, none of them human. My chair alternated between two soft and unexpectedly rigid as its smart material tried to accommodate my alien physiology. "Welcome to the 47th Interstellar Medical Exchange," announced Dr. Lorne, his 4 upper limbs gesturing in formal patterns. "Today's emergency session focuses on our recently discovered neighbors, the humans of Earth." I gave a small wave as 200 alien doctors, biologists, and scientists turned to stare at me. Our subject expert is Dr. Miles Hoffman, who has graciously agreed to represent his species. "Graciously been ordered to," I muttered, which my translator helpfully broadcast to the entire room. Dr. Lorne's 6 eyes blinked in what I'd learned was mild embarrassment. "Yes, well, we'll begin with the cardiovascular system." A holographic display of my recent medical scan appeared in the center of the room, showing my heart beating away at what the aliens considered an alarming pace. Commander Trex, the military liaison from the Dravak species, imagine a 7-foot-tall mantis with a perpetually disgusted expression, pointed at the display. "This can't possibly be sustainable. The human heart must wear out within a few cycles." Actually, I corrected. Our hearts beat about 100,000 times a day for roughly 80 years on average. The room erupted in what my translator rendered as gasps, though some species were clearly making sounds no human vocal cord could replicate. "Impossible," shouted someone from the back. "The mechanical stress alone would." "Perhaps their perception of time is different from the galactic standard?" suggested another voice. I sighed. "No, we measure time similarly to your calendar. Our hearts just beat over 2.5 billion times in a lifetime." Visra, who had appointed herself my unofficial research assistant, bounced excitedly in her seat. "And that's not even the most interesting part. Tell them about your digestion, Dr. Hoffman." "Oh God, not the digestion talk again," I groaned. Dr. Lorne switched the hologram to my digestive system. Humans intentionally consume compounds that would kill most sentient species. Caffeine, theobromine, capsaicin, and ethanol. "Wait until they hear about competitive eating contests," I whispered to Visra, who looked at me with what I can only describe as horrified admiration. "And perhaps most concerning," Dr. Lorne continued, "they host billions of microorganisms within their digestive tract. What humans call their gut microbiome." Commander Trex's antenna twitched. "Are you saying they're colonized by parasites?" "No, they're symbiotic," I explained. "We need them to digest properly." "You cooperate with invasive microbiota?" asked a gelatinous doctor from the back. "It's more like we're a walking ecosystem," I said, warming to the topic. "Humans are basically biological apartment complexes for trillions of bacteria." The translator must have struggled with this concept because half the room's monitoring equipment suddenly registered elevated stress responses. "Maybe we should move on to something less controversial," suggested Dr. Lorne, clearly sensing the room's discomfort. "Oh, tell them about your skeleton," Visra chirped. Commander Trex leaned forward. What could possibly be unusual about their support structure? "It's inside our bodies," I said. A moment of silence, then. "Where else would it be?" roared Commander Trex. I looked around the room, suddenly realizing that every single alien species present had their skeletal structures on the outside of their bodies. Exoskeletons. Every last one of them. "Well, humans have endoskeletons," I explained. "Our bones are internal, covered by soft tissue and skin. "So you're inside out?" asked a particularly small scientist who looked ready to faint. "I wouldn't put it that way," I began, but the damage was done. "The soft parts are on the outside?" Commander Trex stood abruptly. "Where anyone could puncture them." "Well, yes, but—" "How do you survive?" demanded another doctor. "We heal pretty quickly, actually," I said, which only seemed to make things worse. By the end of the 4-hour session, I'd explained human reproduction, traumatizing, our immune system horrifying, and our need for constant hydration baffling. With each revelation, my status evolved from interesting specimen to biological abomination. Even friendly Viscera kept a slightly greater distance. As the symposium adjourned, Dr. Lorne approached me privately. "Dr. Hoffman, tomorrow's session covers neural activity in your species, sleep requirement." He lowered his voice. "Perhaps we could discuss it beforehand? The concept is causing significant distress among our medical community." "Sure," I said, "but fair warning, the reality of human dreams isn't going to make it any less weird." "Dreams?" Dr. Lorne's skin paled from lavender to nearly white. "Yeah, the hallucinations we experience during our daily death simulation," I replied with a grin. "Some of them get pretty wild." As Dr. Lorne hurried away, presumably to prepare a stronger version of whatever passed for alien antacids, I couldn't help but think that being the galaxy's weirdest species might not be such a bad diplomatic position after all. Day 2 of the medical conference started with what can only be described as an intervention. Instead of the open conference room, I was led to a smaller chamber where a panel of the Alliance's top specialists sat in a semicircle. It felt like I was being court-martialed for the crime of being human. "Dr. Hoffman," began Dr. Lorne, "after yesterday's revelations, we've assembled our foremost experts to better understand human physiology. We hope you don't mind this more focused approach." Translation: Yesterday's session caused 3 medical emergencies among the attendees when I explained childbirth. "Happy to help," I said, taking my seat. "What would you like to know?" A Carvac specialist with elaborate head scales leaned forward. "Let's discuss this sleep phenomenon. You claim humans become unconscious for approximately 1/3 of your existence." "That's right," I nodded. "Without it, we die." "You die if you don't pretend to be dead," clarified Commander Trex, who had insisted on being present. "That is the most backward survival mechanism I've ever encountered." Viscera raised her paw. "What happens during this death practice?" "Sleep," I corrected. "Well, our consciousness shifts to a different state. Our brains process information, form memories, and repair neural pathways. Our bodies undergo cellular regeneration." "And during this state," said a spindly scientist whose species I couldn't identify, "you experience—" what was the term? "Dreams," I supplied. "Yes, you hallucinate while unconscious?" "Pretty much. Sometimes they're mundane, sometimes they're completely bizarre. Flying, being chased, showing up naked to important meetings. Your brain simulates traumatic scenarios while you're vulnerable." Commander Trex interrupted. "What possible evolutionary advantage could that serve?" I shrugged. "We're not entirely sure ourselves. Some theories suggest it helps process emotions or prepare for threats." "You don't even understand your own biological processes?" Dr. Lorne seemed genuinely distressed by this. "Humans are still figuring a lot of things out," I admitted. "We've only been doing serious science for a few centuries." This caused another stir among the panel. The concept that we didn't fully understand our own biology was apparently more disturbing than the biology itself. "Perhaps we should move on to nutrition," suggested Dr. Lorne. "Yesterday you mentioned humans require constant hydration." "Yes, water is essential for us. We can only go about 3 days without it." "And solid nutrition?" "Maybe a few weeks, though it gets unpleasant after day 1. The panel exchanged glances. Dr. Lorne's assistant pulled up my digestive scan again. "According to this," said the Carvac specialist, "you regularly consume substances that would be lethal to most Alliance species." "Like what?" I asked, genuinely curious. This compound, she pointed to the scan. Our system identifies it as hydrogen peroxide with carbon additions. I squinted at the molecule. Oh, that's hydrogen carbonate. Vinegar, basically. We put it on salads. It's an industrial cleaning solvent, said Commander Trex flatly. Well, in high concentrations, maybe, I conceded. But diluted, it adds a nice tang to food. And these? The specialist highlighted several other compounds. Cinnamon, nutmeg, vanilla, they're spices, flavor enhancers. They're plant defense toxins, corrected the specialist. This one contains compounds specifically evolved to damage digestive systems. Ha, I said, studying the chemical breakdown of cinnamon. That explains the challenge where humans try to eat a spoonful of it. You have competitions to consume plant toxins? Commander Trex's antenna twitched rapidly. Oh, that's nothing, I waved dismissively. We also eat capsaicin for fun, remember? Some people build up tolerance to increasingly painful levels. Pain is entertainment, muttered Dr. Lorne, making notes, continuing the theme of voluntary suffering. The spindly scientist raised an appendage. What about this compound? Our system flags it as a severe neurotoxin. I glanced at the molecule. That's caffeine. Most humans consume it daily to counteract the effects of insufficient death practice, sorry sleep. You poison yourselves to compensate for not poisoning yourselves enough with unconsciousness? Commander Trex's voice had risen almost to a squeak. When you put it that way, it does sound silly, I admitted. And this? The Carvax specialist pointed to another compound. Alcohol. It's a social lubricant. It damages neural function, stated Dr. Lorne. That's kind of the point, I said with a shrug. In moderate amounts, it helps us relax. By damaging your brains? Temporarily, I clarified. We recover. The panel fell silent, digesting this information. Finally, Visra spoke up. Dr. Hoffman, would you say humans have evolved to be resistant to damage? That question hit me like a revelation. Actually, yes, we're not the strongest, fastest, or most efficient species on our planet. But we might be the most stubborn. We've evolved to take damage and keep going. Fascinating, whispered Visra. So these seemingly self-destructive traits are adaptations, I finished. Humans can eat almost anything, survive extreme temperature variations, recover from significant injuries, and adapt to a wide range of environments. We're the biological equivalent of duct tape, not pretty, but surprisingly effective. As I spoke, I had a growing realization that humans might be the galaxy's ultimate biological oddity. Where other species had evolved elegant, specialized solutions, humans had developed a brute force approach to survival. Be tough enough to take whatever the universe throws at you. One final question, said Dr. Lorne. These sensory appendages on your face, our scans indicate they're extremely vulnerable. Why would evolution place critical sensors in such an exposed position? I touched my eyes and smiled. Sometimes the best defense is a good view of what's coming to kill you. The panel didn't seem reassured. After 3 days of being treated like a walking biological hazard, I needed a break. The Vrexian Alliance had excellent recreational facilities aboard their diplomatic station, including what they called a relaxation garden. I found it anything but relaxing. The ambient temperature was about 40 deg C, 104 deg, and the humidity approached 100%. Perfect for reptilian species, torture for humans. Instead, I found myself in the observation lounge, enjoying the view of distant stars through the massive viewport. I'd smuggled in a flask of whiskey, purely for scientific demonstration purposes, of course. Dr. Hoffman? Came a familiar voice. Visra approached, her fuzzy form silhouetted against the starfield. What are you consuming? Want to see something that would kill half the species on this station. I offered the flask. Her large eyes widened. Is that the ethanol compound? Whiskey. Aged 15 years in oak barrels. Want a sniff? Curiosity overcame caution, and she leaned forward to smell the flask. Immediately, she recoiled. That's weapons-grade solvent. It's also delicious, I said, taking a sip. The warmth spread through my chest. Your digestive system must be reinforced with something beyond organic matter, she marveled, watching me drink. Nope, just standard human tissue. I took another sip. Though I admit not all humans appreciate whiskey. Commander Trex and 2 security officers entered the lounge, immediately spotting us. Dr. Hoffman, Trex's voice carried that special tone of perpetual disappointment I'd grown accustomed to. What are you doing with the research assistant? Cultural exchange, I replied, raising my flask, demonstrating human recreational chemical consumption. You're consuming toxins in public areas? Trex's antenna twitched in what I now recognized as alarm. It's perfectly safe, I assured him. For me, anyway. The station's atmospheric sensors detected ethanol vapor, said one of the security officers. Protocol requires. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the station, cutting him off. Red lights flashed, and a computerized voice announced something my translator rendered as environmental breach in Sector 7. All personnel implement safety protocols. What's happening? I asked, suddenly alert. Containment failure, Commander Trex snapped. The laboratory section. Another announcement interrupted. Warning, research specimen breach in progress. Hazardous biological entity detected in ventilation system. What kind of specimen? I asked, but Trex was already rushing out with his security team. Visra looked terrified. They were studying a predatory species from Nexus 9. If it's in the ventilation system. The station lights flickered, then went out completely. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in an eerie blue glow. We should get to a secure area, I suggested, putting away my flask. The observation lounge is a dead end, Visra whispered. We'd be trapped. As if on cue, something large thumped in the ventilation duct above us. A grating sound like claws on metal moved across the ceiling. What exactly are we dealing with? I whispered. Necrovore, apex predator. Hunts by thermal sensing. Visra was trembling. Our security protocols weren't designed for this species. A panel in the ceiling crashed down, and something dark and sinuous poured through the opening. It resembled a centipede crossed with a moray eel, easily 4 meters long. Its segmented body rippled as it dropped to the floor, multiple legs clicking against the deck. Don't move, Visra breathed. Its vision is based on heat signatures. The creature's head swiveled toward us, attracted by our body heat. Multiple eyes gleamed in the emergency lighting. Run, I told Visra. I'll distract it. You can't. It's evolved to kill things 3 times your size. But I was already moving, grabbing a decorative metal sculpture from a nearby table. The creature lunged toward me with surprising speed. I dodged left, bringing the sculpture down hard on what I hoped was a sensitive part of its anatomy. The Necrovore screeched, a sound like ripping metal, and thrashed violently. One of its limbs caught me across the chest, sending me flying into the viewport. Pain exploded in my ribs. Definitely broken. Dr. Hoffman. Visra cried out. The creature turned toward her voice. I couldn't let it reach her. Ignoring the stabbing pain in my chest, I grabbed my flask and hurled it at the Necrovore's head. The metal container bounced off harmlessly, but the cap came loose, spraying whiskey across its sensory organs. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. The creature writhed as if in agony, its movements becoming erratic. The ethanol was clearly toxic to its sensory system. Taking advantage of its distraction, I grabbed Visra and half-carried her toward the exit. Each step sent jolts of pain through my chest, but adrenaline kept me moving. We made it to the corridor just as emergency teams arrived. Commander Trex led a squad of security personnel in protective gear. They stopped short when they saw me, bloodied but mobile, supporting Visra. It's in there, I gasped. Sensitive to ethanol. Use that. As the security team moved past us to deal with the creature, Trex stared at me with an expression I couldn't read. You're injured, he stated. Probably some broken ribs, I admitted, the adrenaline beginning to fade and the pain intensifying. Nothing life-threatening. You should be incapacitated, Trex said, almost accusingly. Those injuries. Humans have a good pain management system, I explained, wincing. Adrenaline, endorphins, we evolved to function even when damaged. Visra looked up at me with newfound respect. You saved my life. Medical teams arrived and insisted on treating me on the spot. As they scanned my injuries, the alien doctors expressed shock at what their equipment revealed. Your skeletal structure is already initiating repair protocols, one said in disbelief. And your cardiovascular system has adjusted to maintain optimal function despite trauma. Like I said, I managed a pained smile. Humans are good at taking damage. Commander Trex watched as the medical team worked. First you poison yourself recreationally. Then you use said poison as a weapon. Then you continue functioning with injuries that would incapacitate most species. Just another Tuesday for humanity, I quipped. But as they took me to the medical bay, I couldn't help noticing how the security team kept their distance and how the medical staff handled me with newfound caution. The respect in their manner was tinged with something else now. Fear. I woke up in a sterile room that definitely wasn't the standard medical bay. 3 walls were featureless white composite, while the 4th was a transparent barrier. Beyond it, I could see Commander Trex conferring with several officials I didn't recognize. When I tried to sit up, I discovered I was restrained to the bed. Not violently, the restraints were soft and medical in nature, but definitely designed to keep me in place. Hello? I called out. Is this standard treatment for broken ribs in the Alliance? Or did I miss something? Commander Trex approached the transparent barrier. Dr. Hoffman. You're awake sooner than our medical team predicted. Human healing, I said with forced cheerfulness. We bounced back quickly. Mind telling me why I'm restrained? Security protocol, Trex replied stiffly. Following yesterday's incident, certain concerns have been raised about human physiology. Concerns? I echoed. Dr. Lorne approached the barrier, looking uncomfortable. The Alliance Security Council has convened an emergency session regarding humanity's status. Our status as what? As a potential biological threat, Trex stated flatly. I blinked. You're joking. The evidence is compelling, continued Trex. Your species consumes compounds lethal to most sentient life. You remain functional despite significant physical trauma. You voluntarily deactivate your consciousness and experience hallucinations. Your cells demonstrate accelerated regeneration capabilities. Those are just human traits, I protested. We evolved that way. Perhaps, Dr. Lorne interjected, or perhaps your species was designed as a biological weapon. I laughed, then immediately regretted it as pain shot through my healing ribs. Designed? By whom? That's what we intend to determine, said Trex. No natural evolutionary process would create a species so haphazardly resilient. Great. 3 weeks into humanity's first contact with alien life, and I'd managed to convince them we were bioweapons. Look, I tried reasoning humans evolved on a planet with high gravity, variable climate, and numerous predators. We adapted through persistence hunting, endurance, and omnivorous flexibility. There's nothing suspicious about it. You survived direct contact with a Class 3 predator, Trex countered, with minimal protection. I got lucky and had whiskey, I pointed out. Yes, the ethanol, Dr. Lorne nodded. A neurotoxin you consume regularly that happened to temporarily disable a life form even our security teams approach with extreme caution. Put that way, I could see their point. From their perspective, humans probably seemed like walking biohazards. What do you want from me? I asked finally. Information, said Trex. Complete biological data on your species. Weaknesses, limitations, vulnerabilities. So you can defend against us? So we can understand what we're dealing with, Dr. Lorne corrected diplomatically. A new figure approached the barrier, one of the Alliance's senior diplomats, a tall, willowy being named Keltran. Dr. Hoffman, she said, her voice melodious through the translator, please understand our position. Your physiology raises security concerns. Because we're different? Because you're dangerous, corrected Trex. Your natural abilities exceed military-grade biological engineering in several categories. Yesterday, Keltran continued more gently, you suffered injuries that our medical databases classified as significantly debilitating. Yet you remained not only conscious but combat effective. Your pain response alone is an evolutionary adaptation, I insisted. Humans feel pain, believe me. We just push through it when necessary. And that's precisely what concerns us, said Trex. A species that can ignore its own biological warnings, consume toxins for pleasure, and function despite severe damage is, by definition, a potential threat. I sighed. Have you considered that these traits might make us valuable allies rather than threats? The Council is considering all possibilities, Keltran assured me. In the meantime, we need to conduct additional testing. What kind of testing? Stress response analysis, Dr. Lorne explained. Pain thresholds, toxin resistance, regenerative capabilities. Oh, I interrupted. You want to poison me and hurt me to see how I respond? That's not happening. The tests would be carefully controlled, Dr. Lorne assured me. The hell they would, I snapped. I'm a diplomatic representative, not a lab rat. Trex's antenna twitched in frustration. Your unwillingness to cooperate only heightens our concerns. My unwillingness to be tortured is perfectly reasonable, I countered. And frankly, if you're worried about humanity being a threat, consider how we might react to learning you experimented on our representative. That gave them pause. Keltran and Dr. Lorne exchanged glances. Perhaps, Keltran suggested carefully, we could begin with non-invasive assessments? Medical scans, cognitive tests. I've already undergone basic medical examination, I pointed out. What more do you need? Emotional response data, said Dr. Lorne. Human psychological patterns remain largely uncharted. You want to know if I'm going to snap and go on a rampage, I translated. Not exactly. Keltran smiled thinly. But your species does demonstrate unusual emotional volatility. I couldn't argue with that. Compared to the methodical Vrexians or the stoic Carvacs, human emotions probably seemed wildly unpredictable. Fine, I conceded. Non-invasive tests only. And I want these restraints removed. After a brief conference, they agreed to my terms. As Dr. Lorne deactivated the restraints, I rubbed my wrists and reflected on humanity's precarious diplomatic position. We weren't just weird, we were terrifying to species that had evolved along completely different lines. But maybe, just maybe, I could use that to our advantage. 3 days of psychological evaluations, stress tests, and non-invasive scans later, I was finally released from the medical containment area. The Alliance Security Council had convened to discuss humanity's status, and I'd been summoned to attend, not as a specimen this time, but as Earth's representative. I straightened my uniform, now repaired after the Necrovore incident, and entered the council chamber. 12 representatives from the Alliance species sat in a semicircle, with Commander Trex, Dr. Lorne, and Keltran among them. Dr. Miles Hoffman, announced the council chair, an imposing Vrexian elder. We have reviewed the data regarding human physiology and psychology. This session will determine humanity's classification within Alliance contact protocols. Translation: they were deciding whether to welcome us into the galactic community or quarantine Earth as a biohazard. Before you make your decision, I said, I'd like to address the council. The chair nodded permission. Distinguished representatives, I began, I understand that human biology seems alarming from your perspective. We're weird, I get it. We consume toxins, we shut down our consciousness daily, and we can function despite significant damage. But I'd like to propose these aren't bugs in our design, they're features. I paused, noting I had their attention. Humanity evolved on a planet that tried to kill us at every turn. We weren't the strongest, fastest, or most specialized species. So we adapted by becoming the most flexible. Yes, we can digest compounds that would kill you, because we never knew what we might need to eat to survive. Yes, we heal rapidly and function despite injury, because our predators didn't give us second chances. I walked to the center of the chamber. But these same traits that alarm you are what make humans exceptional problem solvers. We don't just endure, we adapt, we transform weaknesses into strengths. Consider sleep, you see it as a vulnerability. But it allows our brains to process information in ways your species might never experience. Our emotional volatility drives creativity and innovation. Commander Trex's antenna twitched skeptically. You're suggesting we should welcome potentially hazardous biological anomalies because they're creative? I'm suggesting, I countered, that different evolutionary paths produce different strengths. The Alliance already recognizes this principle. You've united 12 distinct species because each brings unique capabilities to your Federation. Dr. Lorne leaned forward. While your argument has merit, the security concerns remain. Human resilience borders on concerning. Let me demonstrate something, I said. I turned to Visra, who had been quietly observing from the side. Visra, what was your first impression of humans? She blinked her large eyes. Terrifying. Your biology defies conventional evolutionary models. And now? After working with me for weeks? She hesitated. Still strange, but fascinating. Your adaptability is remarkable. Exactly, I said, turning back to the Council. Initial fear gives way to understanding. Yes, humans can survive circumstances that would kill many Alliance species. But throughout our history, we've used that resilience to protect others, not just ourselves. I activated a small projector I'd brought, displaying images from Earth's history, human first responders rushing into burning buildings, doctors treating patients during epidemics, astronauts risking their lives to explore space. These are not the actions of a weapon, I said quietly. These are the actions of a species that uses its resilience to help others. Imagine Alliance exploration teams with human members who can endure environments too hostile for your species. Imagine emergency response units with humans who can function in crisis conditions that would incapacitate others. Safe. The Council members exchanged glances. Our differences don't make us incompatible, I continued. They make us complementary. The Alliance already understands this principle. It's the foundation of your Federation. Different biological approaches, united in common purpose. Keltrine spoke up. Your argument is persuasive, Dr. Hoffman. But concerns remain about human unpredictability. Fair enough, I acknowledged. We are unpredictable. We're messy, complicated, and sometimes contradictory. We feel fear but act anyway. We know things will hurt but try them regardless. We argue passionately about trivial matters and unite instantly in crisis. That's not a flaw, it's our greatest strength. I looked around the chamber, meeting each council member's gaze. The galaxy is unpredictable too. And when the unexpected happens, when environments change suddenly, when threats emerge from nowhere. When conventional approaches fail, you'll want species like mine on your side. Because humans don't just survive chaos, we thrive in it. The greatest human innovations throughout our history came from crisis and constraint. We're at our best when things are at their worst. The chamber fell silent. I could see the council members processing, their varied anatomies displaying what I'd come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. Finally, the Vrexian chair spoke. Your testimony demonstrates exactly the qualities you describe, Dr. Hoffman. Adaptability, persuasiveness, and a certain stubborn resilience. A ripple of what might have been laughter moved through several council members. The Alliance has always sought diversity of thought and capability, the chair continued. Perhaps humans represent a more extreme form of diversity than we anticipated encountering. Commander Trex raised a limb. I maintain security reservations. However, I cannot deny the potential strategic advantages of human participation in Alliance operations. May I suggest a compromise? Dr. Lorne interjected. A probationary integration. Controlled human participation in selected Alliance initiatives, with appropriate monitoring and safeguards. I bit back. My initial reaction, being treated as potentially dangerous, wasn't ideal, but it was progress. I nodded. Earth would accept these terms. We understand your caution and are willing to earn your trust. Keltrain's skin rippled with what I now recognized as approval. The human demonstrates wisdom as well as resilience. The council chair activated a holographic interface. We shall put the proposal to vote. Probationary classification for humanity, with controlled integration into Alliance activities. I held my breath as 12 distinct appendages signaled their votes. One by one, indicators turned green. It is decided, the chair announced. Earth will be classified as a Level 3 civilization with provisional Alliance status. Dr. Hoffman, you will serve as humanity's first liaison to the Alliance. Relief flooded through me. Not full membership, but not quarantine either. A beginning. Thank you, I said simply. Earth looks forward to proving ourselves worthy partners. As the session concluded, Vizra approached me. You realize what you've done, don't you? Nit. You've convinced the most cautious governmental body in the galaxy to take a chance on a species they initially considered a biological hazard. I smiled. Just demonstrating another human trait. Which is? Optimism in the face of impossible odds. I extended my hand to her, and after a moment's hesitation, she placed her delicate appendage in it. Now, let's go make some history. As we left the chamber, I couldn't help but think that perhaps humanity's greatest contribution to the Alliance wouldn't be our weird biology or our stubborn resilience, but something far simpler. Our conviction that different doesn't mean dangerous, it just means new possibilities waiting to be discovered.